Let's take a look at how ESPN grades the offseason for the NFL teams. Now, Buccaneers signed Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, so they win the offseason. They're the top pick. They rank the Browns as number 2, and the Broncos, Colts 3 and 4. What's interesting, the Bengals, they rank as 12, and the Bengals did make some nice moves this offseason without question, especially in the draft. The Ravens 18 and the Steelers 20. Now, the Ravens lost the tight end. The guy that's back there, and tight ends play a big role in that offense, don't forget that, is injury-prone. Marshall Yanda, one of their really good offensive linemen, retired. They did go out and strengthen their defense. They got Calais Campbell, and so the Ravens improved, but I think that's more a function of that line is a little bit of a question mark, and the Steelers at number 20. Let's welcome Dan Lobby back in. Dan, when you look at what the Browns did, we've talked about this a couple times, Andrew Berry checked all of the boxes. He tried to address the holes, and you can't plug as many holes as the Browns had in one offseason. That's just the reality of the NFL, the way it's structured.
Right, and I think when you look at that rankings, it's very telling. The teams that were at the top of those rankings, they weren't great teams last year. So they were the teams that needed to be more aggressive. They were the teams that needed to go out and make the bigger moves, whereas a team like the Ravens, they were the best team in the AFC. Now, obviously, that didn't play out in the playoffs, but at least during the regular season, they were the best team in the AFC. So they didn't have to make a ton of moves and make a ton of big splashes. And the Steelers were a pretty good team as well. They're getting Big Ben back. I think that helps them a lot, obviously. So, for the Browns, it was just a very measured approach. And when you see them ranked number 2 in those rankings, you kind of try and rack your brain about, well, what was their absolutely huge headline-making signing? They didn't really have one, but they went out and they got some of the top guys at the positions of need. They had a solid draft, and they just filled a whole bunch of spots that needed to be filled. And that's what you're supposed to do in the offseason.
Yeah, and it was, you could see the thought process and the plan. Let's take a look at how Bleacher Report ranks the top moves in the offseason. Obviously, Buccaneers signing Tom Brady is number 1. You do that with the best quarterback arguably to ever play, and you're going to get the top ranking. The Cardinals trading for Hopkins, that's a pretty good move too. Bengals drafting Burrow, Joe Burrow, the number 3 move in the offseason. Now the Browns get Conklin at right tackle, 10th, and Austin Hooper at tight end, 15th. Those are 2 areas that should improve this offense dramatically, and they're areas that were, quite frankly, weaknesses, huge weaknesses for Baker Mayfield a season ago. Dan, when you look at that, is that just your thoughts on those?
Yeah, it's not just that they were areas of huge weakness and that the Browns addressed them. It's that you can look at the moves they made and see the identity of this football team. Before they've even stepped foot on the field, their identity because they went out and they paid a bunch of money for a tight end. Now, of course, everybody needs tackles. So, with Conklin and adding Jedrick Wills, maybe that doesn't fit in that. But then they went out and traded for a fullback. They've done things that show you what this team wants to be offensively. So, the Austin Hooper signing, on top of just needing a tight end, the investment they made in it long term, the amount of money they spent on it, it just shows you how important that position is going to be. And it gives you an idea of what this offense is going to look like and just drives home what we saw last year in Minnesota is what we're going to see a lot here in Cleveland. And we haven't had that in a while here, where you can look at a team and even before you see them on the football field, you can say, I think I know what this offense is going to look like.